Hello, I'm Mark Schaldhouse, and because things on the internet seem to lose their date references pretty easily, today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. On Wednesday, August 28th, 2024, we visited the El Paso Zoo. I would classify the El Paso Zoo as a medium-sized zoo, not real big, and totally enjoyable. And this is going to just be a rambling video of our visit there. We spent probably 2 to 3 hours there, 2 to 2 to 3 hours there. And the day was clear, it was getting warm, and as I address it in the videos, most animals, predator-prey type animals, are active in dusks, morning dusk, evening dusk, and during the dark of night they're normally bedded down because of limited visibility, and during the bright of day they're normally bedded down because they are so visible. So we were there early in the morning. If you're going to visit this zoo, check out its homepage first, because as I understand it, it's only open Wednesday through Sunday. It's closed Monday and Tuesday. It does have some pretty tight hours. It's like 9 to 3 Wednesday, Thursday, and then 9 to 5 or something Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Check out the homepage. Free parking. I thought the admission was reasonable. Very clean zoo, very nice animal containment systems, a lot of really good signage. Let's get on with the videos. I like this zoo. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in another one. We spent about 3 hours at the El Paso Zoo. I would classify it as a medium-sized zoo. And first of all, let me address some issues. Using both Garmin GPS and Google Maps, it took us to a service entrance, which we had to go all the way around, probably a 1 square mile block area of the city to get to the actual entrance. There were no good signs in the area how to get to the entrance for general parking. Google Maps and Garmin GPS took us to a service entrance. We were there as the zoo opened, and we were one of the very first people inside the zoo. And if you understand animals, you'll understand this. And if not, it's one of those educational steps. Animals don't like being seen, and they like being protected, whatever. So most animals are active in the dusk, in the morning dusk or in the evening dusk. At night, it's tough to see. They aren't going to walk around. They normally bed down. There are night hunters, there are day hunters, and during the day they don't like being seen, so they're going to bed down. So if you want to see a zoo, if you want to see most animals in a zoo, get there for the morning or the evening, and avoid the darkness of night or the brightness of day. Simple lessons. Predators and hunters. Predators, hunters, prey know these things, and you'll watch the animals. They'll sit in protective circles sometimes. They'll operate in herds, whatever. And anyways, it's a nice zoo. We enjoyed it. The markings were nice. The signage was good. A number of signs were there for exhibits that animals weren't on display. That happens. And a number of the animals that we saw were already bedding down. It's El Paso. It's late September. At 9 o'clock in the morning, it was probably 75 to 80 degrees. It's bright, clear skies, and getting warm, so the animals are bedding down. In the process of rolling through this, as you saw, I took some videos. I prefer taking videos of animals, and if the animals are stationary, there's no sense in taking a video of them. And I'm going to try and give you the signage first, and the signage for this museum I thought was very, very good. And then I'm going to show you the animals and let you go on at that. those interesting things in life. We were out last night looking at a comet. It was October 14th, 2024, and there was a comet in our western skies right after sunset. We had the telescope out, the binoculars out, we were looking at it, and a screech owl was in the neighborhood, just raising holy cane. It was enjoyable. And then this morning I'm looking at the screech owl at the El Paso Zoo. One of those interesting coincidences. The Montezuma quail were fun and interesting, and I took my camera over to video and shot them, and unfortunately the camera focused on the fence, and so the quail themselves were blurred, but they were walking around in a line following each other. When you're talking about feeding animals in a zoo environment, the professionals will use several phrases, numerous phrases. Two of them that they use are browse and enrichment. And enrichment stimulates the mind, makes them work for their food, open up the container. For example, otters may be given clams that are still closed, so they have to figure out how to break them open, keep them back in their natural habitat. And that also goes with browse. So you don't feed giraffes by throwing hay on the ground. You feed giraffes by by hanging branches up in the trees, and you make them work for those branches and use their natural feeding habits, and you try to keep the animals as much in their natural state. Part of that also goes to how you place the animals, and not all zoos are really good with this. Part of it's because of their landscape restrictions and structures. If you can set up the landscape of the zoo properly, and this is an opinion, you'll set it up so that the predators can smell and hear the prey, and the prey can smell and hear the predators, possibly even look at them. And a number of zoos are set up this way. San Diego Zoo Safari Park here in SoCal is set up this way, and it keeps the animals as much into their natural habitat as possible without them actually being in the natural habitat where they would be back in their true roles of predator and prey. I tend to like zoos that, in my opinion, set up their displays, their animal containment systems, respectful of the animals that are in them, and I thought the giraffe displays here were pretty cool. One of the really fun things was actually looking at this sculpture thing of a giraffe, and I'm going to give you a little bit of time to look at the detail of this sculpture because it was really cool. The exhibits varied: inside, outside, shaded, shielded, whatever, and the signage within the zoo varied by how the exhibit was being displayed. So you'll see some really nice indoor signage, some really nice outdoor signage. There wasn't a whole lot of issues with glare off the signage while we were at the zoo, which was nice, and thought it was appropriate. The zoo's also bilingual due to their location with Juarez, Texas, Juarez, Mexico, and we just thought this was a really nice zoo. And it was also for us a 12 to 13 hour drive from Southern California to El Paso. The first day on our long vacation took us to El Paso. This zoo was done on the second morning of our long vacation, and it was set up that way. And from here we drove to Fredericksburg, Texas for our next museum. The animals that we saw at the El Paso Zoo were active for the time of day and for the type of animals there were. The spider monkeys are usually active throughout the day because they're operating under the canopy of the jungles of the forest that they're in, jungles primarily. And these guys were just absolutely having fun with life. This was a good zoo. It took the animals into account in the designation and the design of the containment systems. There was a fairly large display for the penguins, and we were talking about how zoos properly house their animals, and the write-ups for this says the water is chilled. The penguins, which can take temperatures up to 90 degrees because these penguins are the Magellan penguins from the tip of South America, not from the Antarctic. They have shaded areas. Their inside habitat is air conditioned, things like that. So they are taking care of their penguins, and I love penguins. I love watching penguins fly through the water. Birds that can't fly through the air, but they can fly through the water. Really slick. The California sea lions were out just having absolute fun, and I've got some video of this as they go. They also explained why the water in various parts of the zoo was very, very green. Healthy, not unhealthy. Healthy for the animals and part of their natural environment. Unfortunately, it restricts us from seeing the animals, but which is more important, us seeing the animals or the animals being in a healthy environment? Przewalski horses are in a number of zoos. They are from the deserts of Mongolia. They are one of the few species of horses, truly wild horses, that's never been domesticated. And as you read the signage, their DNA is interesting. The domestic horse that we know appears to be a compilation of numerous breeds being interbred and adapted to the needs of man. The Malayan tiger was on exhibit, and it was a nice day for it, and it comes from a very warm area of the world, Southeast Asia, and it was on the prowl, so to speak. So concerned about the life of my battery, I didn't do the video as much as I wanted to. I tried it, and the glass just interfered with it, so all I've got is still shots. The zoo has a fair amount of birds in aviaries, and a few amount of freeloaders as well. A few birds we'd never seen before. And then we came up to these provost squirrels and in their cage. and they were just absolutely going nuts, having fun running around their cage, so we'll let you watch them.
There he is. Hello.
This tawny frog-mouthed bird was sitting there just as proud as you could be, and my wife made the comment that when she worked at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, the one that they had there would react when she came by. And the tapir, I know I did not realize this about tapirs, but according to the lineage here, tapirs are related to horses and to rhinos. Figure that interaction out. The Sumatran orangutan family was was out having fun. The little guy was playing with a box. It's amazing what enrichment can be used to keep the animals mentally alert and interactive with their space in their environment. The El Paso Zoo has greater one-horned rhinos, and a couple of them, and have some nice shots. And the greater white rhinos are extinct now. The only survivors are non-breeding age, non-breeding capacity, whatever. And when those die, which they may have died by the time you hear this video, which is a tragedy. The San Diego Zoological Society's Crest Center for Research, the center that works on trying to keep animals from going extinct, is trying to figure out how to get a surrogate mother and try to get the species back. It's interesting, it's supportive, and things we have to do. Once they go extinct, unless you believe in science fiction, Jurassic Park, they're extinct, but there's ways of trying to bring them back. The temperature was rising, and as I said, most of the hunting actually occurs in the dusk, morning dusk, evening dusk hours, when the prey is not openly visible in bright daylight, when the hunters have some light, not total darkness to hunt in. And that's not an absolute statement, but the African painted dogs, okay, it was now bright daylight, and it was getting warm, and they were bedded down. The greater kudu herd was kind of distributed throughout their area. However, a couple of them, and this one in particular, one of them in particular, took kind of an interest in us and the other visitors. Just kind of stood there watching, maybe waiting to see if she needed to alert the tribe to a possible danger. These types of animals will normally work alert circles, where everybody in the herd is looking in a different direction, trying to watch for the predators, and if they see something suspicious, they'll spook and let the whole herd know that there's something awry in your environment. You'll see that in a number of elk, deer, kudu, impala type herds. As I've said several times, I thought the signage in the El Paso Zoo was very good, and this led us to identify this particular bird as an Inca tern from South America. And along this we had a freeloader, and this is a duck that was just kind of walking around. This is the sort of thing that the kids would just make a kid's day if he could follow a duck walking around. We are in an area where we had signage that I wanted to document for later use possibly, or for signage that I was taking photos of, hoping that we could get pictures of the animals, the birds in this case, and didn't always find that, but I'm leaving the pictures in the video. They can be used as reference later for something else maybe. I like making my wife laugh, react, cry, moan, groan, whatever. And we found the backside of water, same as Disneyland. Backside of water. I think they're copying Disneyland. It appeared that the America's aviary was under rehab. Besides having a ladder in there, there were virtually no birds that were out in this very large open area. This this atrium, I guess, this whatever you would want to call it. Off on the side there were some birds in other cages, so we moved on to the reptile house, and the reptile house looks like a tortoise. And for scaling, I had to put my wife in its mouth and take a picture of it. As we were leaving the reptile house, seeing a rattlesnake and a Gila monster, there were a number of exhibits where as I cited earlier, I took pictures of the signage because I wanted to have it as documentation, but there was nothing else. Like for the Roadrunner, we didn't see one. Then we walked out into this remake of a African fortress. There was a fairly large, fairly detailed presentation of the African savanna, the prairie lands, the grasslands, the brushlands, and then we're going to run into some miscellaneous shots. The Franklin Canal and a nice bridge kind of walk over. I would imagine kids actually enjoyed this. Was kind of fun, would be enjoyable. And talking about overpasses for bridge trestles, train trestles, and in Southern California we're starting to cut corridors under our roadways, under our railroad bridges, particularly for wildlife to traverse without injury, and they're adapting to it very, very quickly. Living in Southern California, I live in a desert, and they had a nice presentation on the Chihuahuan desert in El Paso, and a lot of the items that are growing in that desert, and a kind of a concrete statue of a wolf. And I'm the kind of guy, I look at a tree and say tree, and flower, look at a flower and say flower. So when somebody gives me detail, I find it interesting, but I don't remember it. I have more interesting things, more other things that I'm going to stave in my brain, so to speak. This Copper Canyon Challenge thing was a additional purchase, adventure access. Nobody was in at the time, and the carousel was also additional purchase. Again, nobody was there at the time. I would have ridden on the carousel if it would have cost a buck or two, but nobody was there. A cat adoption center, I'm getting my tongue tied, was also at the park, and this other playground for children, just walk up and have fun, and a splash park. I like railroads, and one of the references I had before we made this trip was that the El Paso Zoo had an operating what I call carnival scale railroad, and when we got there we found out that it was not operating and had not been operating for several years. Found a statue of a foo dog. Foo dogs come out of Chinese folklore, and they were put on the sides, the corners of of temples to protect them from fire. In walking into the America's aviary, I think that's where we found this, were these windows that we're talking about how they feed the creatures at the zoo, and these were the 3 that were there. So we found other information around the zoo as to how they take care of their animals, how they feed them, how they tend to them, what they do to keep them mentally alert and physically fit and things like that, which is what the animals need. And to wrap this video up, we enjoyed our visit to the El Paso Zoo. If you're cruising through western Texas on the I-10, this is a short distance from the I-10, probably a 15-minute drive, 10-15 minute drive from the I-10. I think it's good for kids. It's free parking. Get better directions than our Google Maps and Garmin GPS gave us. There is what I thought was reasonable admission. The zoo does appear to be closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. We were there, so check with the homepage as to what their hours are, because they're not a 7-day-a-week zoo, and they're not open for a lot of time. So they don't open at like 8 o'clock in the morning and close at 7 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. They do have very limited hours. They are a really nice zoo to visit, very clean. It was not crowded when we were there. We enjoyed the visit. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and hope to see you in another one. Thanks. Bye.